that huge monster, that thing that sat on the top of my chest, was gone. I just loved that feeling. Ever since I took my first drink, it was like I had a built-in alcoholic tolerance to drugs and alcohol. It was like I just could not get enough. You can have a terrible start and have an amazing finish in life. You can start off so bad and so rough and go through so much and really like go underground and change yourself, and literally people won't even know who they're talking to.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Solutions podcast, where we interview people from all walks of life who've overcome the impossible. We shine light on one simple truth: no matter your past, no matter your pain, with the power of God, anything is possible. Today we have a very special guest. This is our first time meeting today in person, but I can just tell she has such a spiritual soul. And it's a very beautiful thing when you run into people like that, because being around them heals you, because what they have within them pours outside of them. And she celebrated just recently 27 years of sobriety. That's a long time, everybody, okay?
Yeah.
I'm letting you know that. Some of us are not even 27 years old. And she got sober at 19. And I'll tell you what, it's very rare to see people get sober at a young age, because it's hard. You're not 21 yet. I mean, you haven't even gone through the legal drinking age yet. Everybody's still partying at that age, like innocently partying, you know. Not everyone's an alcoholic or a drug addict at that age. And so to be able to try to stay sober during those young parts of our life can be challenging. But those who do it, there's a strength within them that is amazing. So I want to introduce Caroline.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful introduction.
Yeah, and I can feel that. You know, you got, first of all, you got the spiritual look,
Yeah.
right? You got that spiritual, the tattoos and the way you dress. And
yeah. No, but that's the biggest compliment ever. If someone says I'm spiritual, that's like, I feel like God's smiling at me. Yeah.
So tell us, tell us, give us your story. What was your childhood like all that stuff growing up? And did you grow up in Orange County?
No, I'm originally from Staten Island.
Okay.
So I'm just a transplant Italian from Staten Island. When we moved out to California, it was like culture shock. I had a very thick New York accent. I didn't look like anyone here. But yeah, I was born in Staten Island. Growing up in my house, I think that, I always used to say that before I drank, even, I felt different. Like I had different thoughts. I always had a lot of anxiety. I bit my nails like down to the bottom, as a kid. I had
and when you said different, because I can relate, do you remember when you were younger, what did that even mean to you to be different? Like what was it that you saw that made you feel like you were different from everybody else?
Well, because when I moved here, everyone had blonde hair. And, I had dark hair, blue eyes. I had a New York accent. My style, even back then, was different. I've always been very into like clothes and fashion and expressing myself through clothes. And yeah, I just remember feeling really awkward and different. And the girls, I remember them teasing me about my accent. Probably because I talked with my hands. But I think growing up in my house was really hard. Really hard. Yeah. I mean, I think just being in an environment where, there's a lot of fighting and anger, chaos, never knowing what you're going to come home to. One day I could come home and things would be great. Things would be amazing. My parents would be good. And, the next day I could come home and like there'd be a cop car outside or, it would just depend on the day. I mean, there's a long line of alcoholism and mental illness in my family. I'm the only one that's in the program, though. Yeah. So growing up in that environment was scary for the little version of me. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when it's like I don't know if that causes our anxiety or if we've already had it, but it's usually the same similarity in our stories, right? It's like walking on eggshells at home, and we're
Yes.
kids, so it's not like we can be like, I'm not gonna go home today. It's just
Yeah.
here we, you're just there, and it's just like trying to cope with it
Yeah.
in whatever way. So you come from Staten Island, you come here, you feel different, right?
Yeah.
Because how you look, how you
Yeah.
talk. Sounds like you have a dysfunctional family home,
A lot of
right?
fighting, just a lot
Yeah.
of fighting, a lot of violence,
Mm.
fighting, just, being around people that were not probably 100% okay to, be around, people struggling with addiction and issues themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how did you cope with that? Do you remember when you were younger, like being at home?
I think I was just when I was little, I was always like, I think dressing up, being in clothes and, playing with my dolls, reading books. I had escape like when I was
Mm-hmm.
little through TV and books. That was like a big thing for me. Later on, it became shopping, exercise, you name it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've tried every which way. Yeah, but at that time, I think it was just being afraid and also escaping in some sort of way, probably through reading. I'm like a book nerd.
Okay.
I still am.
Yeah,
So
reading's
yeah.
great.
I like to. I'll stay home all weekend and read. I don't care. Yeah.
And then for you, so is that through elementary school? What was it like for you, like in middle school?
Middle school was tough. I took my first drink at 11.
Okay, so
So
is that middle school yet, or is that elementary school?
Well, fifth grade, I graduated when I was 17 from high school because my
Okay.
birthday's in
You
August.
okay?
So yeah, I mean, I getting ready to go into middle school. Middle school was really, those 3 years were really tough for me. I felt, what's funny is, I I lied a lot in middle school, even before I drank.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why do you think you did?
no, I did because I remember wanting to be away from my house. And so I would make up reasons like to be away from my
Mm-hmm.
house. Like, oh, my family's going out of town. Like, can I come stay at your house?
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to be home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just very stressful dynamics in my house. My mom, between my mom and my dad, just, yeah, a lot of intense stuff
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Yeah, and I get that. My dad is, as you would say, narcissistic.
Oh,
So growing up walking on eggshells, like I remember like some people's stories are like, I was so sad when my mom and dad got divorced. I was like, man, I was stoked
I can't
when
believe
my
you're
mom finally kicked my dad. Like I was happy. I was like, yes, finally.
you're speaking my. I
You
can't
know?
believe that's
Yeah.
exactly. They got divorced when I was 14. I remember feeling so glad and
Mm-hmm.
wondering why they hadn't done it.
Really?
So,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, so many years before. At that point, though, I was already a mess. I mean, at 14, I was already a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming home the day that my dad moved out, and he didn't take anything. So, he left pretty much everything for us. But I remember going through the cupboards and realizing that some of the cups were gone, and that being my sign that he had moved out, and feeling really sad about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. And so you said you took your first drink at 11.
Yes.
Now let me ask you this: so you didn't know what alcohol was going to do to you before that first drink. Why did you take that first drink at 11 years old, if you remember?
Well, I just had such an overwhelming fear of, sorry if I get
Oh
emotional
no, it's
too.
good.
It's only because, very recently in the last 5 years have I become a crier.
Mm.
Like I was not a crier before. I
Mhm.
wouldn't really cry about a lot of things. I mean, it took me a lot of years to process through a lot of stuff in my sobriety. So,
Mhm.
when I cry, it's a good
That's a
thing,
good thing. Yeah, you're healing.
Yeah, yeah. So I alcohol is very prevalent in my family. So everybody did a lot of drinking. My grandfather, my mom's dad, he died of an alcoholic heart attack, 46, and I'm about to turn 46 this year. So just seeing people drink, it was always there.
Mhm.
And so that combined with feeling like an overwhelming amount of stress, like I felt so overwhelmed and stressed and what I know today to be a ton of anxiety running on a general level of anxiety.
Anxious attachment style. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the first drink I had, it was my mom kept a old bottle of E&J brandy.
Oh, I remember E&J's.
Yeah, up in the cabinet. And I crawled up on the cabinet and I grabbed a coffee mug. I filled it halfway up. I took it back to my room. I drank the entire thing and I passed out on my bed. And what I remembered from that experience on was that huge monster, that thing that sat on the top of my chest was gone. And I just loved that feeling. Ever since I took my first drink, it was like I had a built-in alcoholic tolerance to drugs and alcohol. It was like I just could not get enough.
And I think that's what happens, right, for people, especially for people like us that are anxious attachments.
Yeah.
Anxiety is that we finally find something that's so quick to remove that feeling that we have. And it's like, oh, wow. Again, it's almost like, oh, this saved my life when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then later on, it ruins my life. But in the beginning, it was like, it's I always say it's like a spiritual experience for us.
It is. And it just gave me, I was able to take a deep breath like you just took. And, I didn't worry about what was going on in my house. There were a lot of things, a lot of issues going on, things I've had to process as I've gone through my sobriety and gone through therapy. And at that moment, I didn't realize that I was setting off, this spree that would take me to where I am today, sitting across from you, talking about it. So, yeah.
And for you, so after you kind of experienced the E&J, right, you experienced that sense of freedom and peace and calmness.
Yeah.
What happens after that? Are you kind of just like, okay, like I need to drink this now every day?
Well, I started smoking cigarettes. My mom was a big smoker. You're from Staten Island. Everyone's smoking in New York. Like, it's just how it is. My mom would drive around with these huge, long Virginia Slims. Menthol lights. That's what she smoked. And she would drive around the car with them. And I just thought ever since I was a little kid, too, I loved like mob movies. I loved watching, Goodfellas and Mean Streets and Scarface and I wanted, I wanted to wear like a fur coat, and I would practice with my mom's cigarettes, like before I even smoked, wearing like something that I thought to be glamorous, and I thought smoking was really glamorous, So combined with that, I started smoking cigarettes and started smoking weed. And I loved smoking weed.
You did. See, for me as an anxious person, I was like, weed makes me more paranoid. I'm always shocked when people smoke weed and don't get. I'm like, dude, it makes my anxiety so much worse.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. I thought, for a long time that even if I quit drinking, that I would still always smoke weed. It took me getting into rehab and looking at, all the other stuff too, to be like, whoa, like, no, that was more than a gateway drug for you. That was a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now you're smoking cigarettes, you're drinking alcohol.
Yeah, I'm noticing guys, which is another part of, my addiction as well. Relationships, men, validation from men, validation from outside things, So now these things are coming into play, right?
And why do you think there was such a pull to that validation from men? Like, what do you think you weren't getting that for some reason, like that was like, whoa, I like this feeling?
I mean, I think now I realize that, I was just missing that key component that you kind of find as you're struggling along the way. Maybe other people don't have addiction. I don't know if they do or not, but finding that self-esteem within myself, right? Pursuing my goals as a kid. Like, it was as soon as I started drinking, I can't think if I had any goals. I didn't have any goals after that. Right. It was just like anything that I could put from the outside to put inside. So if a guy pays attention to you, it feels really good, right?
It's like a high.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that I started having like friendship issues. To be honest, I think I always had friendship issues. As a kid, I there was this weird sense of no boundaries in my house, plus a lot of spoiling, if that makes sense. So, it's like, I'm nothing, I'm all I think about. I'm nothing, I'm all I think about. So, yeah, I think having that outside validation was something I really craved. I could not find it left to my own devices, for sure. So I started having just like, issues with guys, issues with friends, getting caught in lies, partying too much, getting in trouble at home. That's when it all started from that moment on.
And at this point, is it just weed, cigarettes, alcohol, and now just relationships? Is that kind of...
Yeah.
Because again, now does anything else start to come into play? Is there any hard drugs coming into play for you?
Well, in 8th grade, we would run around and do like acid, and there was after we moved to California, I moved to the desert, Coachella Valley area. So at that time there wasn't a lot of stuff to do out there. We were basically desert kids. I loved the desert. Anyway, we were just kind of running around left to ourselves, so there was this area of houses at the time that we used to like to go and do acid and just get lost up in this track of homes. Does that sound weird?
No, I mean, that's what you do when
it's
you take
so
hallucinogens.
90s.
That's what you do.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were doing. Yeah.
So hallucinogens, you're drinking, smoking, relationships, you're getting in trouble at home, getting in trouble in general.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was for me is I, at that time, was able to hide it more. So, like, I was getting in trouble, but I knew as long as I kept my grades okay, there were certain things that I had to check the box in order for people not to really be in my business, if that makes sense. Yeah, if I could, it was a kind of like a tool I learned that if I looked okay, then it meant I was okay. Yeah.
I always remember when I was in high school, I had the friends that would still go to school, still finish their homework and take their tests. And then they would party like crazy. But I was the one that would party like crazy, forget to do my homework and all that stuff. So I know that there's like that balance of how to kind of like, so you can kind of like, justify it.
Yeah.
And so in high school, when was the first time you went to rehab?
The first time I went to rehab was when I was 17 years old.
So was that right after you graduated then? So you graduated
No,
early?
before I graduated. So when I went into high school, my partying got a lot worse.
What were the parties like back then?
Oh, crazy. I mean, so fun, so fun. We would go, one time we went up to like, even just going to Santa Barbara, Isla Vista at that time, and the live music. I mean, a lot of punk music, just.
I was a punk rock kid.
Yeah, I used to always like I was more of like a cheerleader, but then I loved like the guys that were like, on a skateboard or like they had tattoos.
Yeah, Bad boys, outcasts.
Kind of, I kind of like that too. I mean, I had a big phase of that. I think I still kind of do. I have like plugs in their ears or like earrings and I mean, high school, I think my freshman year, I felt like I was trying to do a little bit better. I was like cheering, which was really important to me. I danced since I was little. Dance was always super important to me. And it felt like music is really important to me. It's a big tool I use now for my anxiety. But yeah, I was trying to kind of get with like a better group. But, that year I had a lot of like drunken explosions, I would call them. It's when my drinking started to get like really bad. I would get like violent. I would black out. One time I, came to at a friend's house and, there had been this whole spectacle that happened for hours. I started experiencing blacking out really early. I mean, putting my hands on people. I developed a temper, I would say, back then that has followed me, my whole life, except for in the last like few years, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen Jersey Shore, so I know you girls, when you go black, I get a violet.
Yeah, I used to blame it on that, but I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to blame the East Coast anymore. I feel like it's me.
Yeah, that's why, like, for me, like, because my first love was alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's why I got into cocaine, because I was like, well, I don't want to black out, because, you know, you get those moments where you black out, just dumb. So
yeah,
I always find it fascinating for people who never go the cocaine route. And I'm like, you just keep on blacking out and keep on going. It's,
right. Well, I had a high threshold for drinking. I'm telling you, like, you know, I think I was just born with it. I think I was born this way with this type of, you know, like, tolerance. And as soon as I put that first drink in, you know, it was like, yeah, it just completely changed me. And from then on, you know, I felt like, you know, whether it was alcohol, you know, weed. My junior year, I had gone to a doctor's appointment, and they took my blood pressure. So I'm 16. They take my blood pressure, and it's like 170 over 110.
And that's bad, right?
Very high, extremely high. And they could not figure out what was going on. So they started running all these tests. And at that time, my left kidney was completely blocked off. I had no fluid going into the kidney. So basically, the kidney was like 3 times the size. And so that year I had major reimplantation surgery to keep my kidney working. And I also was prescribed a lot of pills after that surgery.
What did they give you?
So they gave me Oxy, Xanax, they gave me sleeping pill. I mean,
Jesus.
just all sorts of medication. And
is that the first time you ever touched pills?
No, I had before, dabbled very lightly. Alcohol was always my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I kind of also had an excuse. You know, I had this little thing, like this, you know, when I got out of that surgery, I couldn't wash my own hair. I stayed in the hospital for 10 days, you know, and, you know, to stay in a hospital for 10 days is a long time. Yeah. So coming home, had a full catheter bag and a drainage bag. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, I also had the victim part of being sick too, which worked.
Did they say that was because of your drinking?
No, later on, they diagnosed me with an autoimmune disease that was causing major inflammation in all of my organs. At one point in time, in my kidneys, my heart, my lungs. Yeah. So, but that I was diagnosed after my son was born. Okay. So my son is 23, almost 23. Yeah.
So you get out of this hospital. Now, now they give you all these pills.
Yeah.
What starts to happen now that you have all these pills and you're out of the hospital?
Well, I'm getting even worse. And I'm also in a really toxic, at that point, relationship with somebody that is also, you know, struggling with a really bad meth addiction. Okay. And so meth was really big, especially in the desert too. So, you know, I never really got into meth. I was more of a downer person, you know, than, you know, that soothed my ADHD and my ache, you know. Yeah, because I always felt like my brain was going. So
90 miles per hour.
Yeah. So after that, it's like my disease just accelerated. That next year, I wound up moving out and trying to go to school. I mean, at that point, too, I mean, I was just having so many problems. I was, you know, like going out and, you know, hanging out with people, you know, their houses were getting raided, you know, while I was there. You know, there were women. I was hanging out in places, I mean, that you would call, like, I mean, at that point, they weren't calling it a trap house, but it totally was. I mean, you know, watching, you know, women across from me, you know, slam dope who were pregnant. I went through a really traumatic experience going on a vacation with a friend and got too drunk and you know, was sexually assaulted and barely escaped with, you know, my life. And, you know, during that time, I remember saying to her, I'm not going to drink again. After that happened, I said, I'm not going to drink again. And the very next day when we drove home, I wound up coming back to that house where I was kind of dating someone, and he was like, you know, a big drug, you know, I was into all the wrong people. So he was like a big drug dealer. And yeah, just sitting on the couch, cracking open a 40, sitting across from somebody that was getting high. And the thought came for 1 second that I said I wasn't going to be there. And then it just went away. It was like I just buried that. You know, I had a memory the other day of a friend. We were, you know, probably 14, and she was dating somebody that was like, you know, dealing, and he was much older than us, because during that time, nobody looked at that.
Yeah,
I mean, really, no
times.
one did. No one cared. And we were late to meet him, and he was extremely mad. He was really scary. And so we got in the car, and you know, when you get into the desert where there's all the windmills, he drove us all the way out there, and we're 14 and he's in his 20s, drives us. Now we're going down the dirt road and there's no one out there, just the windmills. Stops the car in front of one of the windmills, goes to his trunk, pulls a 9 out of the trunk, fires it up into the sky, comes back into the car, and she got him to calm down by saying that she would do like a sexual favor. And I remember thinking, I'm going to die. And the next week, we just went back to school, and we never talked about it, ever. We never talked about it. And just how sick that is. Yeah, I think I noticed it a lot more when my son turned 14, and I saw what, you know, what's my son doing at 14? What was I doing at 14? And seeing these comparisons and really letting it sink in that, you know, I think about her because I know that she struggles, you know, too. And it's like, you know, just how scary that was.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like when we're growing up, right? I mean, we're kids.
Yeah.
People are supposed to guide us and protect us, right? Adults. And sometimes we get in situations where it's like we don't know how to process it.
Yeah.
And it's all we know.
Yeah.
So it's not till, like you said, when you're older and you start thinking like, right, like I was molested when I was a kid, right? So when I look at like my nieces and nephews, or like Alika, you met his kids, I go, damn, I was that age. I'm like, that's so fucked up. And I'm like, oh my God, I was not like that was like such a wrong thing to happen, you know? And so, yeah, it's sometimes it takes time to really process these traumatic moments that we had to suppress.
Yeah.
You know, nothing we can do.
Yeah, it's so wild, right? Just that, you know, you go back to school and, you know, that was the biggest when you know, these memories have taken so much time. You know, it takes time to get time. It takes time in here to like heal. It took me so many years for any of this stuff to even start coming up. I think people think they have to rush it, and, you know, it takes a lot of time. And thinking about the sadness of that and how scary it was, and that we just never talked about it after, made me feel really sad. And think about how many other incidents there were just so similar. Yeah.
It's like I try to tell people like me being a victim of a pedophile, I try to tell people like, you know, you can see it in a movie, right? You can see a scene in a movie, a scary scene, a kidnapping scene or whatever, but it's like, but when you're in it, it's like the most disgusting feeling to be in it, because you never think you never think of this thing ever going to happen to you, but then when you're like, holy crap, like I was a victim of this thing or this situation, and it's like a feeling that just kind of like lives in you, you know what I mean? And it's just like for me, if I think hard enough, I can remember like how it smell and it's like a weird almost like a demonic feeling of like the situation you're in, and it's scary, and then we just carry it, you know. So for you, when you went to rehab the first time, like what was, like, how bad was it getting to the point where, like, did you say I need rehab? Did someone say we're sending you to rehab?
No, I was sent, you know, at that time. The first time I went was because everybody could clearly see. I have a really close friend. She's still one of my best friends. Her and her now husband, who I knew from back then as well. They helped my mom. They did an intervention. Everybody completely cut me off. And, I tried to do like first an outpatient program, thinking that was,
Yeah, I'll do outpatient, not inpatient.
I know. I think about it now. Like, it's so funny. But I was not interested really in learning anything. I didn't want to get sober. Getting sober was scary, a very scary thought. Even at that time, like, I knew that I drank differently. My drinking was different than everyone's. It always was from the time I drank. My drug use was different. The way I processed emotions was different. I also was like really bad at being in relationships. I mean, it was never at that time anybody that, I was always unfaithful. I was always running to the next thing because nothing was on. I would just get like distracted. Wasn't distracted. It was just like, I was never satisfied with anything. Yeah.
Again, it's right. It's chasing the high.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, what we're doing.
Yeah. So I tried outpatient. That did not work. And then, after that, the bright idea came, and I think my mom just kind of didn't want me there anymore too, like at the house, like, so I moved up to Santa Barbara with a friend, to, attempt to go to school and work, and things got so much worse up there, like so much worse. As soon as I got there, my alcohol use was, a million times worse. I was having a lot of problems. The roommate that I was living with too, eventually we parted ways. But one of the reasons I went back to rehab was because I, had gotten in a lot of trouble. I was stealing from her. It wasn't that I didn't have what I needed for me again. I just needed more. And I did not really want to do a lot of hard work to get more. And I was, stealing from her. I took her, the last straw was when I moved back to the desert, was I, had, taken her ATM card and, used it. And, they found out and I'd gotten in a lot of trouble. And I came home and I went to Betty Ford again, and I was kicked out of there and asked to not come back because I also had a terrible attitude. I was mouthy. I didn't want to do any work.
You were that client.
Yeah. No, I was. Yeah. So, after that, I was doing couch surfing, I was living at friends' houses. I wasn't really having a lot of contact with my family. I was living at my closest friend's house. She had let me come and stay there, and she went away, and I trashed her place, and she was pretty much, almost evicted from her house after I did that. So, I was sent to stay at my dad's house, which was my last stop before I was 5150'd, and they took me out of there. At that time, I was, I still remember all the details around that time are kind of a little bit fuzzy, but one thing is for sure, I will never forget the last day I was, in his house. And I can never forget it because I can never forget how I felt that day. I don't think I've ever felt like that since, so I wound up staying there. I was allowed to stay there, but I wasn't allowed to go. My dad and my brother had gone on a trip to New York to visit family. They let me stay on the couch because I'd been kicked out of everywhere else. I didn't have any place to stay. I had no job. I was kicked out of another friend's house for, going through all of her shit, and just no respect for anyone's, no respect for anyone's stuff, no thought of anyone else. Just the amount of selfishness at that time,
What do you think fueled that type of behavior? Because, there's like for me, even though I was in my addiction, I wasn't that type of person in that way. Now, the disease of addiction, I was crazy. Like I would, like for you, why do you think those behaviors you were doing those? Like, what was it doing for you?
I think because I have always been somebody, like I said, that, I had to learn, like when I got sober, that if I wanted better things, I had to go and work for them. I had to get them. I was spoiled growing up, I was spoiled with no consistency and no boundaries. So what does that teach a kid? That they're going to go out in the world and, if they want something, then they can just get it, right? And, that's just not how life is. And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, because it just taught me how to work hard. It taught me integrity. It taught me, boundary. So many things. But yeah, I think at that time, I don't think I learned those things growing up. I don't think anyone, and I'm not blaming anybody by any means.
It's your environment, right?
Yeah.
If you grow up with a family that doesn't have boundaries and stability and self-worth, again, that's what we're going to have. We don't know. We just don't know. Like I know for me, my mom is a codependent.
Yeah.
So what does she have? Insecurity. She's driven by fear, low self-esteem, right? I don't know that when I'm a kid.
Yeah.
I know that as I got older, and I go, my mom's mindset, because she raised me when my dad left, literally became my mindset. So my perspective of the world was through a codependent's eyes, And so without knowing growing up, I'm like, that's why I was in so much fear all the time, because my mom, you were so afraid of everything that I thought that was the truth.
Yeah.
Like the littlest things. Oh my gosh, I can't pay rent. And in my head, I'm like, what does that mean, Mom? We're getting kicked out tomorrow. And as I get older, they're like, you don't get kicked out because you're one day late. like a simple thing, but I'm like, wait, what? I believe this to be true for like 20 years.
Exactly.
So that fear that I had was fake. I'm like, what else do I believe that's not true?
Isn't fear crazy? It's so crazy. Like fear will make you believe. I operated on fear, I think, from the time I was born until, even I would say the first 10 years of my sobriety, to be honest with you, because there were a lot of fears to sift through. And so, I have codependency issues too. I'm gone to Al-Anon. I had an Al-Anon sponsor for a long time. Yeah. And I think I ran on a lot of those fears too, combined with some narcissism, maybe some, like I said, I'm all I think about, but I'm nothing. I think that's the best way to describe me.
Yeah, I always tell people like, it's like, what's it called? Like, I may be very self-centered, but it's not because I think I'm better than you. Yeah. It's because I think I'm less than you.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm always thinking about myself. How do I look better? How do I do better? How do I sound better?
Yeah.
And so I tell people like, that's the core for me.
Right. Right. Well, and it's different for everybody, I know, fear has been a big part of, when I realized fear was behind my temper, I thought, I never knew that this whole time I thought I was an angry person. I thought it was all these other factors. I never knew it was because I was scared. Yeah. And every time I got scared, even when I was sober,
that's how you cope.
Yeah, I felt like I was getting scared as a kid. So my reaction was 50 times what it should have been, because it brought back all those feelings. And it took so long for me to be able to, because I think that it, even there's so many, it's different now. There's a lot of young people that get sober. People get sober younger than me now, and it's so cool. But when I got sober, even though I had 5 years, I was still only 24. And you're, when you're in your 20s, you're in your 20s. You're just, you're
figuring out life.
Exactly. Yeah. So there were concepts and things that were difficult for me because I was still that age. And so it took me a while to get it right.
Yeah. So like your rock bottom moment, like what was the rock bottom moment where you finally got sober and stood sober?
So I'm in my dad's. And I'm staying at my dad's. He's got everything put away and locked because, he doesn't want me to steal anything. I'm only allowed to stay in the living room. My dad was in law enforcement, so he kept guns in the house. And that day, I had pretty much all my friends had participated in a really tough love. Either you go to rehab or, we're not going to talk to you anymore. So at that point, staying at my dad's, none of my friends are talking to me. My boyfriend has broken up with me, and he's struggling with his own stuff. I'm staying on my dad's couch. I've already been kicked out of rehab already. No one wants to be around me. And so I'm at my dad's. I'm all day long. I'm drinking now at my dad's. And I'm feeling sorry for myself, really. And I decide in a drunk moment that I'm going to call back Betty Ford and I'm going to ask them to take me back because they're just sitting around waiting for me to call, So I call and they're like, well, you have to stay sober for 2 weeks and then you can come back. There's like a little thing we call a waiting list. And once I heard that, I was like, I hung up the phone and I just wanted to die. I just was like, I can't wait 2 weeks. And so I just felt so awful. I liken it to like, you ever seen the movie like with the girl who lives in the well? I like horror movies a lot.
The Ring?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I felt like I was the girl that lived in the well and I'm just not going to get out of the well. No one's ever going to see me any different than who I am right now. And so, in that split second moment, I felt like I wanted to die. And so, my dad had locked his door, but, in those little locks, you can figure out a way. It's like, in a house, it's just like the circle lock with the key. So you can definitely get in those. So there's the side thing if you poke it right. So I got into his room. And then in his room, in his closet, I knew that he kept a briefcase. And in it was normally a gun. And so I went into the closet and one side of the briefcase was open and the other lock on the other side I could not get open. And so I started shaking it to see if I could get the thing to open up wide enough for the firearm to fall out of the crack. And instead, what fell out was this picture that he must have been carrying around. And it was me when I was 5 and I'm in this like little tree and I'm wearing this total 80s outfit and I looked like kind of happy and that made me just feel terrible and I just wanted to somehow get back to or regain or somehow become happy again and I just didn't know how to be happy and so I went downstairs and at that time, they had me on blood pressure medication as well as other medications. And so I swallowed the entire bottle. And right before I fell asleep, I called one friend. And then I don't remember what happened. But I know later that they kicked him, the fire department came, the ambulance came, they kicked in the door. They brought me into the hospital. I woke up, but what's funny about this is as soon as I woke up and I realized where I was, the alcoholism immediately kicked in and I thought, I have to get out of here. So I buzz for the nurse. This is alcoholism at its finest. I mean, this is what it is. I buzz for the nurse, and she comes over, and I start to explain to her that this has all been a complete mistake.
Misunderstanding. I'm not supposed to be here.
Now I'm in also a bathing suit with a button-up shirt because while I'm feeling sorry for myself that day, I'm also laying by the pool, drinking. I mean, I have no job. I'm not going to school. I'm doing nothing with my life. I mean, absolutely nothing. Nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to be around me. I have no place to live, And so I explained to her that, this has been a complete misunderstanding. And so she says, if you can explain and make the doctor believe that it's a misunderstanding, then maybe he won't bring you upstairs. So I thought, got this. Like, I got this, because that's what I'm good at. I can just hustle my way out of this little predicament and get home because this is a mistake. I'd already forgotten that feeling that I had the day before about wanting to get into Betty Ford, and wanting to go back and really wanting to be sober this time. So the doctor comes over And so I go to him, I'm explaining, it's been a whole misunderstanding. He's listening. He walks away, and I think I'm like, I got it. He's going to let me out. And he actually sent a security guard over to watch my bed, and they sent me upstairs immediately. Like he didn't believe a word I said. And I stayed up there for 3 days, and my mom came to visit me, and, I was up there coloring, and she saw me coloring, and she cried and left. She couldn't believe I was just coloring. What was happening. And she found a treatment center out here. And it was Oasis Treatment Center. Okay. Used to be off Ball in Sunkist in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. Shout out Oasis Treatment Center, the owner there. I owe him my life. So she brought me out. She was too scared to even drive me in the car by herself. So she drove with a friend. And they brought me out. It's right down the street from Disneyland. And I kept thinking along the way that maybe she would forget about this whole thing. And take me to Disneyland. Insanity. Like and I got there, and they walked me in, and the owner, his name was Jim and Kathy. They owned this place. It was like a beautiful house that they had restored. It was beautiful. And I talked with them, and he said, Caroline, the thing that you're missing, it's inside of you. It's not outside. It's on the inside. And that's the hole, you have to fill up. And, I really knew that to be true. Thought it was a very wise thing. But then once I got through the house out to the smoking area, and there was a ton of young people, ton of cute guys, yeah. I forgot. And so then I'm there, and I'm not doing anything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not looking for a job. I'm refusing to do chores. I'm in trouble all the time. And, we're arguing, me and Jim, and I've completely forgotten. Now I have a boyfriend.
We have love. That's right. That's right. It's always been a thing even back then, huh?
They used to say, a sickie and a sickie don't make a wellie. Have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that one yet.
That's an old one.
The one that I do is the one that I use is I go, I got 10 days. You got 5. Together we got 15. Let's take over the world.
I love that. Rest in peace. He's dead. He died of a drug overdose. And that killed me when that happened. He died of a heroin overdose, and he was living in Thailand, and they couldn't bring his body back. And I never got to say goodbye. And that was the first death I experienced in sobriety. But so I wound up getting kicked out of there, after almost 90 days. And they started making the calls to find somewhere for me to live. And their pitch was, we've got a girl here. She doesn't listen to anybody. She's got a temper. She doesn't want a job. And she doesn't want to do any work. Do you want to take her? And I'm like, well, how am I going to find a place? Anyway, there's one place that took me. And it was these 2 women. And it was like a Christian-based sober living, but also with Alcoholics Anonymous. They own 3 sober living houses in Fullerton. And they took me in. And they didn't have a bed for me. They said I could sleep on the floor until they had a bed. And when I got there, this was the first time that I had been in a women's facility. That's where I should have been. I never should have been in a co-ed facility. No, I'm really serious about this because, in messes, I used to think that they were joking around when, the people in AA would say, don't get in a relationship in your first year. Yeah. Maybe wait longer than that. Work on loving yourself first. This is all true stuff. I fought it for a very long time, but turns out it's all true.
Yeah, that's why and again, I'm always the person of something could be 99% true, and there could be 1% of the anomaly that it works.
For sure.
But what I do see as I have time is even the people that when they claim, I met my person my first year, and look, we're still married. But then I'm like, yeah, but your relationship's kind of toxic.
Well, that's the other thing.
So to me, that doesn't count.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I've been in I was in one of those marriages. Like I went through that too, because, taking away. So that was my my bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That was my come to Jesus. When I met those two women, what I noticed from them right off the jump was that they were not going to put up with any of my stuff. And I needed that.
Yeah.
Maybe some people need
Coddling?
I did not.
Yeah.
I needed
East Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Just be straightforward with me.
No, and Alcoholics Anonymous at that time was very different than it is now.
Sit down, shut up.
Yes. A lot of truth, a lot of I needed, and I used to think that I know now everyone needs what they need.
Right.
But for me, I needed people to step to me a little bit and be like, look, no, you're not going to act like that. You're going to follow the rules. You're going to start to learn how to have respect for, even if you don't have respect for yourself right now, you're going to learn how to have respect for this house. You're going to have respect for other people. You're going to get a job. You're not, going to be the owner of a company tomorrow. You're going to go get any job. You're going to start to, work at that job and spend 90 days there showing up on time and, making amends. And, this is a part of your future financial amends. This matters. And so I needed that. Yeah. Yeah. So it was hardcore. I slept on the floor. They made me get the first job that agreed to hire me, which was the Carl's Jr. off of Wilshire and Euclid. It's still there.
Is that still there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I live in Fullerton.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's still there. I cried on my first day. I walked everywhere. My first year of sobriety, I had no car. Riding the bus was a luxury. I didn't even have money for a bus pass. And the first year of my sobriety, nobody wanted to talk to me. There are a lot of people that share about, like, my family. No one wanted to be around me. So I was a 19-year-old kid on my own, like, trying to make it out here, trying to stay sober, go to meetings, like, get my life together. And
were you doing your steps ready your first year? Like
Yeah, so I got a sponsor and got busy. Like, I started going to the Fullerton Alano Club.
That's where I got sober.
Really? That's where I got sober.
Yeah.
I'm the secretary of the 6 a.m. meeting every Wednesday. At that place, it's moved, a few times.
Because after COVID, because I got sober 2017, and that was my home group, and then COVID happened. And
really?
And I went to Garden Grove after, but I'm in a group chat, so I do remember they moved the building, I think, right? So it is going on. Yeah,
so I'll give you the address if you want it after. Sorry, I think my hair got in my face. So that place has such special part of my heart. When I showed up there, like I said, we all smoked in meetings. I cleaned ashtrays. Like, my sponsor was like, you're not getting a commitment where you're at the front of the room. Like, you don't need attention. You need to be cleaning ashtrays in the back. The biggest thing I remember from my first year was, like, I'm walking. It's summertime. It's over 100 degrees. I'm walking to go meet her to do step work. And at that time, the Fullerton Alano Club was off of Amridge.
Commonwealth, right? Or
no, it was Amridge and Wilshire.
Was? Okay.
Yeah, so I live off of Wilshire, but it was right down the street. And they had, like, a half section, which is funny now, that was, like, smoking, and then the other half wasn't. You weren't allowed to smoke at that point. It used to be all smoking, then they changed it to that. Anyway, so I'm walking for my sober living. It's super hot. I see her car drive past because she's meeting me there. So she drives past and her light turns red. So, I'm thinking, oh, she's going to pick me up. So I'm start to, like, hustle a little bit to hurry up to get to the light. She rolls down the window, waves out the side of the car. The light turns green and she keeps going. And when I got there to meet her, she was relaxing in the air conditioning, smoking a cigarette, and I'd walked, But it was what needed to be done. It was what needed to be done for me. God does not make mistakes. I have been sponsored. I've only had four sponsors my whole sobriety by the most fabulous women. I got into a women's group that first year. My home group was Mo's Music.
I went to Mo's Music for the men's group a couple times.
Okay, Mo threw my baby shower for my son almost 23 years ago. That meeting at that time was in the back of the music store. There was all those weird dolls. Do you remember that?
Creepy in there.
Oh, it's so creepy. Yeah, but I mean, sometimes 50 to 100 people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, so we had like the sobriety row of women. It was like an honor to get a commitment there. It was an honor to be chosen for something. I met my second sponsor there. I wanted her to be my sponsor so bad. And she told me in the beginning, I don't want to go to lunch. I don't want to be friends. I don't want to go to coffee. I want you to work your steps first, and then we'll become friends. And I loved how she did that, because working the steps with her and showing her that I was like willing to do whatever it takes, it brought us a friendship, and we're still friends, even though she's, not my sponsor anymore. Like, we're still friends to this day. And, we would do things like, go to, there was a Coco's down the street. It's off of Harbor. It's another diner type situation, but we would go there after the meetings and, drink coffee and, go to conventions and go to dances. And, that was my first year. But after I got to that sober living, I stayed single, and I stayed just with the women, and I built connections with women, and it was hard. It was really hard because, I think the dynamics, I don't think it's talked about enough that, the dynamics between women are difficult sometimes, even in sobriety. And I've seen women leave AA because the dynamics are sometimes different.
And how so? Like, how would you, like, for someone that's listening, they're like, what does she mean by that? Like, what do you mean?
Well, I think there's still an element of clickiness to some AA stuff and women stuff. And, when I think about AA in the beginning, it was like they were having their meeting, right, once a week downstairs. And the people that were already there, it was like they were figuring out how to recruit new people from the outside to join them. And I think that sometimes there's this level of some of the same toxicity that can follow itself to meetings. I think we've all been there before and sensed that. And I think it's so important for women to support each other and to help each other grow and to really talk about what's going on. And if we have time, not talk about, make it look like it's perfect when it's not perfect, that it took a lot of grit and hard work and tears and, that the commonalities are still there. Like, I think that's so important to not carry on some of those stigmas of women not being able to be friends with each other and cheer each other on. I think that's so important because the women fellowship is what got me sober and what helped me to become the woman that I am today. It wasn't the men, not to say that the men were not helpful. It was just the women were really the people that, that I feel like just took my hand and guided me to here.
Yeah, I think it's important for people, especially, we'll talk recovery, but like the guys, like, hey, stick with the men to get right, and women stick with the women. And what I mean by that is because the reality is a lot of us we're codependents. We find out, right? A lot of us are like, oh, we're all codependents now.
Yeah.
It's just reality. We all have love problems, and we're all seeking for love in the wrong places.
Right.
I think the woman who bought me a cup of coffee likes me when she buys that's not what it is.
Correct.
I'm going to share my story today because I see a cute girl. Like, it just, so what happens is like, right, if you are mixed too much, we can get distracted. It happens all the time. And relationships take people out more than anything, I think.
Agreed.
And at least if you're with your gender, it's like, well, I know my guy friend's not trying to hook up with me.
Exactly.
I mean, hopefully not, right? He might. But you know what I mean? So it's different. It's like, I really have to have value in our friendship.
Correct.
I have to bring something to the table.
Correct.
Versus when it's, the opposite sex, if that's what you're into, it's kind of like, it's kind of like that hidden codependent message of like, I'm saying yes to you, you're saying yes to me.
Because you have to bring authenticity when it's your male friends.
Yeah.
You're not that element of wanting to like bring your best self.
What are you doing tonight? You get coffee?
Exactly.
For recovery stuff, right? Yeah, definitely. We can talk step work together.
Yeah.
But really there's this, hopefully she'll kiss me, I'll kiss her. So yeah, when you remove that, it's so healthy. And then the other part you said too, I think, because in like, sometimes I'll get resentful in recovery, even churches. But like when you see the clickiness or the behaviors coming out, or
right.
But then I remember, I'm like, I gotta remember, like, we're sickest people.
Right.
And some people are sicker than others. And just because they're in recovery, just because they love God, doesn't mean they're working on themselves.
Well, and I need to be real. I mean, there's a lot of times I was sick, you know, I was the toxicity in the meeting maybe. And, you know, I will never pretend at all. You know, I think part of the big, you know, in the big book, it talks about the message that gets the newcomer is one of depth and weight. It's not how many cars I have now or, you know, what I'm doing on the outside. It's really those last few seconds before I go to sleep of really who I know I am to be when I square up between me and God. And if I could put that into words, that feeling of how I'm, you know, what I'm feeling like in those moments, right? Like, then I'm carrying a message of depth and weight. What's going on with me? What are my, you know, that's what I'm saying. If we're not sharing honestly, if we're just saying everything's great, then how are people going to learn from, you know, that are coming behind us how to navigate when problems do come up in sobriety? They'll never learn.
Yeah, like one thing, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe they are telling the truth, but like for some reason for me, when I talk to people with long-term recovery, long-term anything, let's just say. And I'm asking very innocently, like, hey, like, do you still like get the thoughts of a drink every now and then? Like drugs? What about like, do you ever like think about, you know, the depression come back? You have like, you know, suicidal thoughts again, or cheating on your, like, you know, normal things. I can't stand when people say, nope, the moment I got right, it never came back. And I'm like, ever, like never. And I'm like, then something must be wrong with me.
It's wild.
Like, you're telling me never?
Well, that's why it's so important, because there were times where I would sit in meetings and I would feel different, because here I am, I have 5 years sober and I have a terrible anger issue. Like
So you still had it by 5 years still,
still had it by 10 years. I mean, still had it at 15 years. It was removed around then. Yeah. I would say that's a fair amount of time, because, you know, there were other things that I was working on, and that one was down there really deep. And so, you know, that's the thing. If I'm not sharing about it, if I'm too scared to feel different, you know, then I am sitting in a meeting and now I want to, I feel nervous if I say I have 10 years and I just, you know, almost blew up my home the other night. Like, you know, that doesn't fit well into the meeting. So now I'm keeping that on the inside and I'm leaving the meeting, and now I'm doing a lot of coping mechanisms that I learned when I was a kid. I'm doing a lot of pretending. I'm doing, great, you know, all that stuff, when it's really not. It's not that. And so, you know, the other day I was telling somebody and she burst out laughing, because I was telling her, well, no, I was saying, no, I get up every day at 4. She said, why? I said, well, because I have a crazy morning routine. Like, I have to read a lot of spiritual books. I meditate. Like, I have a crazy, like, spiritual routine morning and night. And then I told her, I'm like, dude, it's safer for it. I have to do this. Like, maybe
I'll do this for you guys.
Maybe other people don't have to. And I'm not mad about it if they don't.
Right.
Like, I don't really care. I just know that I have to. And that's honest, you know. I don't need to pretend that with 27 years, you know, I can just merrily go on my way, because that wouldn't make sense anyway, because the program is, even with 27 years, you're only granted 24-hour increments. So, you know, if I am putting into my spiritual bank account today, it's going to have to be every day.
When do you feel like you stopped counting kind of like the years, in a sense? I feel like
recently.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, with like anything in life, right? It's like when you're growing older. I always say, after I turn 25 years old normally, I'm like, there's nothing else to celebrate. I can rent a car now. Wow, great. Everything else is just getting older. So yeah, with your sobriety, obviously the first year, second year, there are all these sayings, right? The first year, they say the 5th year, your head comes out your ass, right? You hear the pop, right? Like, stuff like that. Like, yeah. So when do you feel like you kind of like, just like you said, just all I have is today?
I mean, I think that was, so, you know, well, I stayed in that sober living house for a year and a half. Yeah. I managed homes. It was hard because a lot of girls, it was hard dynamics because I was so much younger too. So it was just difficult, but I love that, you know, those 2 women helped me incredibly. They saved my life. They introduced me to one of my mentors who's a pastor. They would play this same pastor on TV that I read all of her books and, you know, listen to her stuff. And so, that place was pivotal in my recovery. When I got there, I saw women working jobs, taking care of being self-supporting through our own contributions, taking care of their lives, taking care of their kids. And I wanted to learn how to be that way. And I wound up moving out of there. And I stayed single, but right after a year, I got in a relationship. And that's, I met, my first husband. I was married twice in my 20s to two people in recovery. Who gets married twice in their 20s? I don't know. I think about it now, and when I repeat my life, people are like, but I have, I may have been alcohol-free, drug-free. I wasn't stealing. I wasn't lying. I was working, But again, there's things that are deep down in there, I'm grateful for that first marriage. I, had my son. And, my son's about to turn 23, and having my son is like the first person that I felt I loved. Like I didn't know how to love. And so having him really gave me like purpose, and being a mom to him, learning how to be, I was pretty young, 22.
Okay.
So, just learning how to be a mom at that age, working full time, trying to go back to school, his dad, is also in the program. He's been, had his own very long career of, going in and out, and, and there's violence in that, situation. You just touched on it. Toxic relationships in sobriety, they exist. They're hard. They can take us out. And, we divorced after 3 years of being married, and I did not stay single for long. I did not listen to my sponsor. I should have, when I look back now, it's like, my gosh, my decision making was, at the time, I'm 26, and I had been also, having, right after my son, I had a flare up of my health. I was at the time, really struggling with my left kidney. I was living with like a nephrostomy bag, which is a bag that, is strapped to your leg, and it's there's a tube draining your kidney. So it's a pee bag basically, and I'm living with that at 26, 27. I'm taking it with me to conventions. I'm sponsoring girls. I'm still doing all the things, but I'm going to meetings. I have commitments, but I'm not really deep in the deep things in the first 164 pages. Like I've worked my steps already. I've worked 1 through 12, but again, how deep can I get with the perception that I have at that time? I can only get to what I can get to. And then each year, as I did another inventory and another inventory, it's like when I read the big book now, I have my same big book. It's like falling apart, right? So I have all this stuff underlined. Sometimes I'll read, because I try to read it almost every day. And I have been really buckling down on that. But there's things in there that I didn't underline, that maybe my brain didn't see the month before, because maybe I'm just in a different spot this month, and my mind is now open to seeing what's on this page. I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. Another thing. It's just perception. It's where you're at. So I could only get to the surface level stuff. And it took me a lot of years to get to the deeper relationship stuff, the anxieties, the deep trauma, the codependency, the outside validation, all of it. It took time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, like, good looks could be a curse. That's the truth. Good looks could be a curse, because if you're okay,
I feel that way.
From a society standpoint of judgment for looks, right? In California, we'll use Orange County.
Yeah.
Right. I always say good looks could be a curse. We go, why? So you have so and so who needs to work on loving himself. or herself, this person doesn't get approached as much. Why? They just don't. But then you have somebody who's hyper attractive. They get, and so I'm going to work on loving myself and being single. Well, guess what? Your challenge is you have all these people coming towards you. Can you say no?
And I couldn't because I craved attention.
Exactly. So what's going to happen? This is stronger than my need to be alone.
Yeah. And I did spend a lot of time in sobriety married. So I got married. When I got married the second time, I was married for 11 years. And I thought I was going to be married for forever. You know, I learned in sobriety how to like put together our families, like even with my first husband, like when he got remarried, like becoming friends, you know, with his wife and sitting all together at soccer games for my son, learning how to have a semi-okay blended, family to try to, help my son to, feel peace addiction came into our relationship. And after his 7th year sober, he went through a relapse and he was working a lot and he wasn't really as much into AA. And so before that, for 7 years, we're traveling all over. I have all the material things I could want. At that time, I'm a personal trainer. I'm making my own schedule. I've got, everything I could want, my son's in school. I can, the kids are over at our house and, just the whole 9 yards. And, but AA has to come first. There was that little caveat that maybe, for me too, like.
Were you kind of getting drifted away from AA too during that time?
Like
catching it?
I think not to the outside eye. At that time, I had the most sponsees I ever had, like sponsoring like 20 girls. I was putting on retreats. I was doing a lot of telling people this is what you should do. But was I really bringing that back to myself? Probably not. Probably not. I probably not, actually not, probably not. I really wasn't. I was going through a lot at that time. My health was extremely bad on and off during, in that 10-year period of my 20s, even a little bit. When I went into my 30s, I had catheter bags, nephrostomy bags. I had to learn how to catheterize myself. I mean, I had to learn. I would catheterize myself 10 times a day. I would sit in doctor's offices with people that had, the same condition as me, and they were 80. And I was, scared and sick and, and then finding out, it's not really my place to tell, but, it's a very scary way that the disease sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you, and it crept into our family, through him. And then came 4 years of learning what it's like to be a codependent on the other side.
Other side of addiction. Huh?
And what that was like and what I must have put people through when I was there, and starting to realize that I was really sick. And that I may not be getting loaded, but I have severe codependency. Obviously you start getting loaded. There's a lot of things that come with that, lying, cheating, the whole 9 yards. It's a lifestyle. And so, the last few years of that relationship, if I would have kept staying, I would have gotten loaded. Yeah. And so my second, I call like spiritual awakening, was, and I knew that was going to happen. And for years, always operating on fear. And at that time too, operating on outside things. Look at me. What can I post on Instagram? What vacation am I on? What car am I driving? What outfit am I buying? How many times this week did I get my nails done? How many designer purses do I have? I mean, I could go on and on, these seem to be important things, but they're totally not. And, I'm staying in this dynamic because I'm scared to do it on my own, because I'm going to have to pretty much start all the way over. And so I don't know how or why or where I got the courage, but I think that it was some of it may have been too, like my son and who I wanted to become and what I saw happening in my house. And so I asked for a divorce and, tried divorcing an alcoholic that's using. I mean, it was terrible, I mean, it was awful. I literally, every material possession. So at this time, I have about 16 years sober. I lost every material possession. I could have kept fighting on in court. I chose not to because I knew that it was going to make me want to drink. I was so resentful. I knew that money had been an issue for a long time and that this lesson, it was time for me to learn. And so I literally gave up all my material possessions except for my house in the divorce on this small agreement that with God, that if I could have another chance, kind of like I would really not be stupid about it. Like I would listen to what my sponsor was saying. I would really do the work that needed to be done, like the hardcore stuff that's underneath that. There were some lessons that I wanted to skip, and you don't get to skip stuff in AA. It doesn't work.
I always say a lesson not learned is repeated.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Lesson not learned is repeated. Yeah, and I'm in this house, and there's this. My ex-husband, he had bought this huge fish tank because he, in one of his sprees, manic loaded sprees. So now there's a huge fish tank with all these cool fishes, but it, fish in it, but it's super complex to clean. I don't know how to do it, and I just remember sitting at this table thinking, what is my life at 16 years sober? Like, what is happening? And so, yeah, from then on, I got really busy in a different way. I say my first spiritual awakening was when I got sober. And then the second one has been at that time. And I'm so glad it happened because I do see people that do have a lot of time and they don't think they have stuff maybe to work on or that the story's ended. And I'm so grateful for that dose of humility and starting all the way over. It was exactly what I needed. I got back into my program. I got a new sponsor. I found this woman. She shared one time in a meeting. She had 3 years less than me. But she shared this cool thing at a meeting, and it was, we all have these things happen to us when we're little. We're victims. We're little, it's not our fault, but as we get older, it's our choice if we want to carry it around or not, like what we want to do with it. And I thought, I want her to be my sponsor. And at the time, I was still kind of lit, like very, easy. But like if someone stepped to me, said the wrong thing, did something wrong, I was fiery all the time. And everybody knew that about me. I hated having that reputation. I started to see too, because I'm being very honest, I started to see when I would talk to my son, if he thought I was going to get mad, that I could see a glimmer of fear. And that bothered me. And I couldn't pretend that wasn't happening. I could have pretended that I don't see that in his face, but what's that going to do for me? Nothing, So yeah, she had me work. She told me, okay, I want you to come over. We're going to rework the steps. So she had this, it's kind of underground. It's like this booklet underground step thing. It's like floating around orange, by the way. I don't know, but it's this certain way that people work the steps. And she told me, if you do it this way, I'm telling you, things are going to really change. You may not have everything that you have now because you may have to drop some of these things, but trust me, if you do it, you'll change. So I thought, okay. So she had me do this writing. I show up at her house and I've got it all written down. And she goes, no, that's not written in the right way. You were supposed to write in columns going this way, and you wrote it in columns going this way. So I thought, what? So she said, no, just sit here and rewrite it. It was going to take me hours. I wanted to fight her because immediately, there goes my ego. Well, how much time do you have? How much time do I have? Here it comes, the ism. It's back. And so I sat there and I spent all the time rewriting it. And ever since then, I think she got like a new respect for me. She knew I was willing to like do the work, because I'm very willing. I'll do whatever it takes. Now, if you ask me, I'll do whatever it takes to be different. I'll always listen to anything that she has to say or anybody else, even if I'm not even a big fan of theirs. I'll listen to what they're saying, because Lord knows I could use it, right? And I could just take what I need and leave the rest. And so it started me on this journey, and I started writing about all these relationships that all had, the same personality. It was weird. It was like same personality, but guy's different name. And I'm like, wait a second, could I have been a part of, and
it's the common denominator.
Yeah. And just, would have been so easy for me to focus in when I left that marriage, because his problems were more glaring because he, yeah. But, I'm so glad I didn't go that route. Instead I chose to look at myself and stay focused on what I was doing and what my problems were in relationships. And to honestly, for the first time, take a look, go back to therapy, commit to therapy, go to Al-Anon. And I saw a lot of me, a lot of fear.
What did you discover was the root problem of your relationships when you started doing all that work?
Well, I think that as a little kid, right, I didn't have the right coping mechanisms or the right tools to find healthy self-esteem as a girl, and then morphing into a woman, and what that means to be a woman, and what the definition of that is to me. Like, women are like, for me, I want to be like respectful. I want to have good manners. I want to say thank you. I want to smile. I want to, be engaging. But I want that to all also be authentic too. Like, not just like coming like, because that's what women are supposed to do, right? Like, and people that are normally happy or have a real happiness, they have a true sense of self. And so I think that's what I was missing. So I was always searching, even though I appeared to be confident on the outside. No, I mean, I wasn't on the inside at all. And so I searched for it. And then when the people around me couldn't give me the amount that I needed on each particular day, I would get mad at them. Or if I felt triggered with like trust or any sort of weird thing, then I would get afraid. I mean, I was a ball of fear. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say, like, if you don't love yourself, then you're going to constantly choose the wrong people to love you.
Yeah.
And it's not, and you're going to find out it's never enough. No one can ever love us enough.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like insatiable.
Yeah. And that's why we get mad. You snap at people.
Yeah.
Because I was like that too. I would see that this person's not loving me enough.
Yeah.
And I would try to create almost like a fight to forgive them.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
It was like this weird thing of like, I feel right here in my mind, so I need to figure out a way to bring you down here. So I'm going to create a fight, get it to right here. And so you feel like you're the bad guy, and then I forgive you. So now I'm a good guy. It's like a weird
and
dynamic.
Then if they're also the ones that have to be forgiven, they also give you a lot more attention too during those periods.
That moment. Today,
yeah,
you're
the
all
forgiveness.
About me.
Yeah,
okay, we'll be fine. And when I saw that pattern, mine was because I chased the love that was shown to me at home. So my dad is narcissistic. So what does that mean? Emotionally unavailable, push and pull, very all over the place, right? My mom has really bad ADHD. So what does that mean? I'm also that type of love towards a kid. There's really nothing there, right? There's really nothing there emotionally, stuff like that. So that was my challenge when it came to picking. For me, it was my therapist said, he's like, you're falling in love with your dad. To women, I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, it's so true. Even now, my sponsor will ask me, who does this person remind you of in your past? Every time I will bring something up to her. I also did an exercise one time that my therapist had me do, which was take a picture of myself or find a picture of myself at like 9 or 10, put it next to my bed for a year and promise yourself that you're not going to sell out on the soul of that little person.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, and I did. And I realized too, I sold out. Like, I also got in relationships too that I knew were bad, where I wasn't treated right. And I did it because I was afraid to stand on my own 2 feet and to be like, you know, me and God. I was afraid, you know, that's scary. Yeah.
And that's harder too when you become aware and you're still doing that unhealthy behavior. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I thought once I know about it, I examine it, and I understand it, I wouldn't do it no more. And I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
And this is even harder. That's a wild thing right there in itself.
Yeah. Well, I looked back too on my life, and it's like, you know, since I was young, except for that first year in sobriety, I've always been dating or with a guy.
And that's another thing too, right? When you go, wow, I've never been alone really.
Yeah.
Like I really never been alone. And again, it's like, damn, that's not good. It's almost like me and my partner, me and her had an agreement. We were thinking of moving in together.
Yeah.
And I said, I've never lived alone.
Yeah.
She goes, really? Because she's lived alone for like 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And I go, I think if I don't live by myself for a season, I'm going to get resentful if we move in together.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like I finally learned how to be alone, single at one point.
Yeah.
And that's why this is working.
Yeah.
But now I'm responsible.
Right.
And I'm like, I need to live alone. And
Yeah.
so we agree. She's like, yeah, go for it. Live alone.
I love that.
Do that. She's like, I know it's important.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It's like when you've never been alone, single, it's kind of like, hey, maybe you should practice mastering that art.
It was such a scary time. At the time, I was going through so much. I had 3 lawyers. I have 16 years sober. I have 3 lawyers that I'm paying. 1 to go through my divorce. 1 to fight the state of California to give me insurance benefits for my condition, because they kept pushing back because they couldn't realize, they couldn't figure out on paper why I was so young and experiencing such horrible stuff. It actually took me going to a whole, trial with them.
Wow.
And they brought on a doctor, and the doctor told them, like, basically, you're nuts. How could you leave her? Basically, I wound up winning.
Yeah.
But at the time and then myself, I'm a big dog person. I rescue dogs. I'm like so into dogs. And I had 2 dogs, and we were attacked on the corner by 2 pit bulls who had gotten off their leash, completely off leashes, out of their house. And they dragged my little dog into the street and ripped him from head to toe. Yeah. And I was able to save my bulldog by shielding him with my body underneath a car until the police came. So I had a lawyer for that to get my dog's medical bills paid. And my life was felt like it was upside down. I was, I had a car that broke down off Baston Cherry in Brea.
I know that's that.
Yeah, and I sat I had 16 years sober, right? This doesn't say, doesn't sound like, what you would want at 16 years sober, right? But this is what I was going through. And I had to go to meetings and keep it real and share what was really going on. This is what was really going on. There were girls that I was sponsoring at the time. They had more material stuff than I did. And, but that was okay, because it's what primes me into where I'm at now. And it's what set me up this whole time to be here. And so I just I had to fight my way just back from that time. And so it was little by little, okay, I had to settle my divorce, and I had to be okay with not getting hardly anything, and say, all right, I'm gonna be poor now, and I'm gonna do what I need to do to keep my house. I'm gonna work hard. I'm not gonna do unspiritual stuff to keep
cope,
to keep the bills.
I'm
gonna do actually everything the right way. And then the dog thing, I'm just gonna get my dog's medical bills and surgeries paid for. I'm not gonna take any more from this woman, and she needs to deal with that on her own. And then I'm gonna have 2021 I had to have my left kidney removed. It was making me so sick, and it was very scary surgery. It was also scary because nobody could come up with me I was by myself, and there's a reason I think that was happening for me too. It wasn't just COVID. It was time for me to really get with God.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next day and I had incisions all over. I had because they had tried to take it out laparoscopically. They couldn't. So they had to, it was so swollen. They had to cut me open from side to side. And they told me, I had to teach myself how to get out of the bed and learn how to go to the bathroom. And I have a picture of what my stomach looked like then. I can't even believe it. I can't even believe what it looked like. Yeah, and I had to get out of the hospital to get home to recover. And I did. I recovered really well, and my health got dramatically better. Dramatically. Not just from losing the kidney too, also because I was starting to gain a little bit of peace too. Like the fighting had stopped in my house from being within a using addict, and just the dynamics of being in a sober relationship too, because it wasn't just his fault, it was also me too. I was not spiritually fit.
Right.
I may not have been using, but I was not spiritually fit, and that's not good either. So I always take 50-50. I don't really care about the blame.
Yeah, we always have a part.
I do not care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, about blame.
Right.
Yeah, because it actually benefited me in the long run. Yeah. And so I had to do that and get back on my feet, get my health better. And I wanted to keep my house. I wanted to stay in downtown Fullerton. And, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go back to work full time. And so I was applying for jobs, and I had this sponsee. It's so funny. I had this sponsee, and I was working with her, and she did not want to work the steps. She just wanted to chat, and I kept calling my sponsor going, well, she just wants to chat, I'm supposed to be working the steps with her. Should I fire her? My sponsor's like, oh, she would say things like, I don't remember when you started hiring and firing people. Kind of like, who do you think you are? Just go back and pick up the phone. She'll fire herself. She doesn't want to work with you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So anyway, I, keep taking the calls. And one day she says, oh, I have a friend, and there's this place, and, I think you'd be, I talked to my friend, and I think it's a good fit for you. It's on Facebook. I don't have Facebook. She sends me the post, and I'm like, I can't tell what the kind of job this is or what type of company this is. The website was really different. I went to it. I couldn't tell. Anyway, though, I really wanted to keep my house, and I was getting pretty close to not making that happen. And so I drove out and got to the building. There's no sign. I'm like, where am I working here? So I walked in the building, and immediately I saw racks of clothes. And I realized that God had brought me there. Immediately, I almost wanted to cry, because as a kid, I was obviously fashion, clothes. I was always the one organizing my friends' closets and helping them pick out their outfits. Style has always been a huge thing to me. And I knew that this was something that I had asked God for years before to work in this industry, but I hadn't gone to school for it, and I didn't have experience. It's so competitive to get into any of these companies, to work with any of these brands. And I knew that God had brought me to the doorstep of this place, and that if I would just be able to get an opportunity to work here, that maybe that God had something bigger. And so, yeah, they hired me, and I've been there for 3.5 years, and it's life-changing. Yeah, I get to do so many cool things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And the fact that I know that it's God ordained is the coolest thing too. And just going from that point, okay, now I got this done. Now I have to, just clearing away one thing at a time, going back into, medical debts that I had incurred while going through my divorce, like going back, paying creditors, saying, hey, let me working my steps, making a real financial amends at, 20 years sober, 21 years. I'm making payments. I'm picking up phones, and creditors were calling me at that time. And until my stuff settled, I couldn't do anything. But once I got the opportunity, I began clearing away the wreckage of my past, and it felt so good. I started to really feel, it's almost like God took me back to like my new, like what I felt like, but better in the beginning of my sobriety, if that makes sense. And I was like starting out very humble beginnings and like putting one foot in front of the other and just learning how to, fix some of these things. And slowly but surely I, working my steps, working with a therapist, staying single. I was celibate for 2 years, I'm still single because it's really important to me who I am as a woman in a relationship and who I want to be to a man and who I want to be with. And so that's not something I take lightly anymore. So it takes a lot of time to figure that out. And so I'm not going to rush into it because those are big decisions. And I definitely want to be able to give love and support in the right fashion, and I feel like being able to heal that part of myself that was not able to do that by learning how to like love myself and pour back into myself. It's like so amazing.
Yeah, I always say, God knows what we need.
Yeah.
God knows sometimes some of us are stubborn than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes things take longer, right? And but that's the beautiful thing about God. He's always there, and he'll show up all the time.
He's never early or late.
Right. And so it takes what it takes for us. And so I love that. And I truly do. And I do want to bring you on for another episode because I really want to focus on our next one on like navigating the struggles through sobriety.
Oh my gosh, I would love
actionable
that.
steps too, because I have stories of almost dying. I had to quit my career and move to Asia.
Oh wow.
Went backpacking, had to figure life out. So my story has a lot of that, and I love that stuff.
And you had to start like from
all
scratch.
Over again.
Oh wow.
I mean? I was like, I don't want to work in treatment no more. I don't want to help out addicts anymore.
Okay.
I haven't gone to AA in 3 years. I haven't gone to church in 3 years. I still go and speak all the time.
Yeah.
When people ask me to speak, I'm there.
Yeah.
I got sponsees.
Yeah.
But I took a break from church and AA for a long time because it was just, I became so addicted almost to it, my character.
Well, yeah.
And it's funny because as I took a step away for 3 years, my life got better.
Right.
But I'm still aware I'm an addict. I have the conversations every day.
Totally.
But I do know I took a step away, and then now I'm willing to go for myself again.
Yeah.
Follow boundaries. So on the next episode, we'll really talk about that.
I would love that.
But I love that. And at this point, we do the speed questions.
Okay, go.
So we answer these in 1 minute or less. What are 3 books, this is good because you read, that you could recommend to somebody that could completely change their life?
Let Them.
That's by Mel Robbins, right?
Yeah, Let Them by Mel Robbins. The Polished Mirror by Ram Dass. I'm reading that right now. The Polished Mirror, is that what it's called? Yeah. And Joyce, I would say Joyce Meyer, because she's my idol. She's my mentor.
Was she the one that?
She's the one.
Yeah.
Any of her books.
Yeah.
I would say for women, any of her books. I've read all of them.
She's one of us too, right? I think she's in recovery.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think so.
Really?
I think so. Because you read Battlefield of the Mind. I think she's in recovery. I don't know if she did AA, but I think she's
I'm obsessed with her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I love that. What was one single mindset shift that completely changed your life?
Not everything's about me.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, the one for me that I love was from the 4 Agreements. Don't take anything personal and never make an assumption. Those 2 right there are so powerful. I'm like, yeah, but don't take anything, because it's never personal.
Yeah, no, totally. I think not everything's about me, because if I don't think it's about me, I won't start to act weird about it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Well, I like Jay Shetty a lot, and Jay Shetty has he's. I mean, somebody else said it, but he said it was I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. I am what I think you think I am, right?
Okay.
And that's when that's when I get in my head about
Yeah.
stuff. She doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. They
Exactly.
fired me because of this. They don't talk to me because
How
of
many
this.
me's are in that?
Yeah, and it's like, how do you know that to be true? Because I know. Did they tell you that?
Yeah.
No. So maybe it's not. It's that. It's like,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. What is the worst piece of advice someone's ever given you?
Oh God, I don't want to say it. It immediately came to mind. Okay, it doesn't matter. It was like with no, I'm not gonna say that one. I'm gonna go to a different. What's the worst piece of advice? Work. I think for somewhat of it is like working easier, having shortcuts. Like there's so much of that in our life, in the world now. Everything is so easy. The shortcut is the easier, softer way. But for me, that the shortcut is not always the easier, softer way. So I wouldn't always advise, depending on what type of person you are, to take the shortest route.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think it's kind of like you said, right? The kids get spoiled.
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen? You're not going to value anything.
Exactly.
Because you have no perception or understanding of how long maybe it took to get the specific thing versus I worked 5 years and I got my dream car.
Totally.
Like, I'm not going to let nothing happen to this car. 5 years is a long time.
Yeah, you're going to take such good care of it. You're going to respect it.
And then for my last question, for the woman who's suffering.
Yeah.
You know, high right now, drunk right now, feels like, you know what? I hear your story, Caroline, but my addiction's worse than yours.
Yeah.
I can't make it. What would you want to tell her?
Just that it's, you know, that there's so much hope in the rooms of AA. There's so much hope in the steps. I mean, that you can take any parts of your life that you think are just, you can have a terrible start and have an amazing finish in life. You can start off so bad and so rough and go through so much and really like go underground and change yourself. And literally people won't even know who they're talking to. And so there is so much hope in change, but there is also a lot of hard work, but the hard work, it definitely pays off. That's what I would say.
I love that. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for making the time and taking the time to come out here and to share so much vulnerability, so much truth, and just, you know, giving people a blueprint of what it looks like to you know, grow up with chaos, struggle with anxiety, struggle with self-worth, and this journey of what it took for you to get right and to stay right.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate it.
Cool.